right here on Wave 105 on this Friday, June 25th. Thank you for tuning in with our KGUM FM Digital One. Like I said, it's the BrightSide. I'm standing by as the host with the most, the king of things, the Ayatollah of rock and roll, the hardest working gentleman in the talk show today, Mr. Pauly. Suba, what else did you say? Did you say the king of things or the king of things? We do want to thank our sponsors, BPA. We start with you, Philly's Willing Bar, Philly's more like this, even memories back in here. Micro Packs from Bose to Sony and more. Micro Packs is on phone for quality electronics. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J. Remember when you purchase your Triple J Ford, get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with that new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com. Get pre-approved instantly. 671-922-1051 or 1052. We are online at wave105.com. And our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. I also have the Glimpses radio app that is absolutely free. Download it now. You get us, you get Power 98 and Belt 99 all on one app, and you can stream us 24/7 from your phone. All right, well, be the best. The roads are wet. Be safe out there. We want to thank you for hanging out with us. So there's a couple things that we never really got to, and so the legislature has been very busy, especially when it comes to oversight over GDOE. And so we can get there. Right now, that's definitely something that I want to cover, or more than likely we'll do it on Monday, is they're doing the military buildup oversight hearing right now.
Really?
Yeah, Senator Kello is again, military members were not there. I was looking at who showed up for this oversight hearing or this informational hearing, whatever you want to call it.
What happened to the
Dr. Robert Underwood's there. Leland Bettis is there, both of them from PCIS.
Yes.
Mr. Baltazar Uggen,
yeah.
He's there. Maneka Flores is there from Patehi Guahan. There might be a few others that I might have missed.
Oh, the usual suspects.
Yeah. Yes. So that's definitely something that I want to cover. But what we have missed these last couple of days is the oversight hearings on GDOE. And so GDOE leadership, they shared a number of things that have been on my radar. Dr. Judy Wampat continues to say that they struggle to hire qualified providers, especially for therapy services, for like special needs programs, special education, right? And so, especially for therapy services, which was, interesting because we just had Dr. Mary Ferdiger on, and she was sharing with me also that there is a shortage. There's a shortage in the courts. There's a shortage at DOC, just therapists altogether, right, in the island of Guam. So, when it comes to therapy services, they usually use contracted providers. The department has completed the request for proposals process, reviewing proposals before awarding contracts. When it comes to JP Torres Success Academy, again, confirming that they have closed that school because, again, we are at the end of that grant cycle. Other alternative education programs will continue. She said the credit recovery program served young adults ages 18 to 21 who needed more time to complete high school. As of June 2026, 80 students graduated from JP Torres Success Academy, and one student chose to finish at Guam Community College. GDOE will still offer other credit recovery options, including after-school programs, booth, summer school, alternative pathways, and GCC adult education or GED programs. She said GDOE is developing an early warning system as well in their Power School to identify students who are falling behind before they reach adulthood. The goal is to intervene earlier so students do not fall through the cracks. On the transition from the previous superintendent, she doubled down again, saying that she had 2 transition meetings in November, but nothing major was provided. She said no major documents were submitted, only descriptions of programs under different divisions. This is the same information that she shared with us when we had her on the show. Also clarifying some things too when, because she was the outgoing superintendent, interim superintendent when Dr. Swanson was coming on, right? And so she had said she did ask Dr. Swanson, if he needed any more information, if they wanted to sit down and go through the transition process. Dr. Swanson chose to go do another meeting. I think it was the retirement office or something that he had to go to, right? Mm-hmm. So that didn't happen. She did ask, look at all the things that I have written down on this giant whiteboard. Do you want us to leave it up? What would you like to do? And so he said, leave it up. And then, her services weren't needed anymore. So that was it. But however, when it was her time to transition out, she was also looking for, to sit down with Dr. Swanson multiple times. However, she confirmed again that there were only two, and they were in November, but nothing major was provided. She said there were no major documents that were submitted, only descriptions of programs under different divisions. They talked about the audit findings too on the management audit, and so that's Dr. Franklin Cooper nurse said the management audit has been completed. The final report was sent to the superintendent on March 18th, and an exit conference was held on April 3rd. The audit found that while GDOE has made progress in accreditation, policies, and community engagement, it still faces major problems with accountability, outdated procedures, limited local funding, procurement facilities, staffing, and instruction. GDOE plans to use the audit findings to create corrective action plans, update its strategic plan, improve accountability, strengthen operations, and improve student outcomes. GDOE is saying that they will continue giving monthly reports to the Guam Education Board, provide updates to parents, employees, mayors, lawmakers, and community partners, and share information through meetings, newsletters, public forums, websites, social media press releases, and annual reports. So we get to the part where the meeting was like 4 hours, but I wanted to just focus on one specific part in this oversight hearing. Again, that took place on June 24th at 9 a.m. Senator Chris Barnett asked if understanding that the board has already voted and has said that no schools will close for the upcoming school year. We're on the first one. You would go to Barnett, ask if sorry, the one that we never got to yesterday.
Okay.
I planned on using that one yesterday, but Senator Jesse Lujan's conversation went over. Yeah, so we're going to use it now.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
So, understanding that the Guam Education Board, they voted to not close any schools. But they also voted to continue to study, or they wanted a report on the feasibility of closing schools, right? What are the benefits? What are the discrepancies? What are
realized pretty much.
Sure. But then, what are the negative outcomes too of closing schools? Like, bring all of that to the table before they decide. So Senator Chris Barnett says, okay, so understanding, especially the southern schools, knowing that we're not going to be closing any of those schools, but how much can we trust that this conversation is not going to come up again? And Dr. Judy Wampas says that depends. That depends on a number of things. And so this is her just responding to that question of Senator Chris Barnett asking if we're going to have the conversation of closing schools again in the next school year, which would be 27-28.
School communities in these communities, and just for my southern stakeholders who were relieved that the board had made a motion and barred any school closures for school year 26-27, but they remain skeptical about plans to close schools in 2028 or 2029. So what assurances, if any, can you provide to the body and to the stakeholders of the southern schools that we're not going to be right back in the same situation come 2028?
That would be totally, a consultant gave me this. It depends. It depends on the data, on the analysis. It depends on our finances. It depends on our facility. It depends on a lot of things, really. Like when I mentioned those 7 objectives into making, some kind of decision about what we need to do with our facilities, it really depends on all of these things. And yes, I love the idea of working with our mayors. I love the idea of having village schools, but we got to come up with other options, because if I don't have money to keep those schools running, operating, and we're looking at many things. I'm looking at trying to lease 2 facilities. I'm looking at wings that I want to lease. I can bring those monies into facilities and maintenance so we can do the upkeep of our schools. We tried at one time, I tried at one time as a former senator, was to provide funding to the mayors to do grounds maintenance so that it won't come out of DOE's budget. Well, it's back to DOE. And for these schools then that we're looking at all our schools actually, if I can reduce that somehow by working with the community, that's going to end up, absorbing, paying for grounds maintenance or custodial services. I mean, yes, the likelihood then of consolidating would be a lot less. But I have a responsibility to be able to operate. I have also responsibility, and so do you, to sustain our schools with whatever funding there is for us to operate. So these decisions, I understand that, everybody's concern here, a lot of it, yes, is really very emotional. It's emotional for me. You think this is something I really would like to do? Absolutely not. I tried at one time as a former senator when there was the discussion and the final closure of FQ Sanchez. I went to the community. I said, here's another option for you, for the board maybe not to close down the school. They didn't buy it. They didn't go with it, so it ended up being closed. But there's so many different ideas out there to keep it open, to make it a village school. I would love to do that. I've even spoken to several individuals who are consultants who are looking at our schools also for other uses with the community, with the school. I love that idea that, let's say I have a whole wing at Southern High School. This is hypothetical because I've not had this conversation, but just as a former school administrator, we know that if you have a really large campus, you're going to need a lot of school aides around to maintain order, to make sure there are no fights going on, students aren't skipping, things of that nature. So I was thinking, what if we get a government agency in there to rent out a whole wing, and the adults, when they go out for breaks or constituents come in from the community, the students are going to see a lot of adults on the campus. Do you really think they're going to be fighting in a corner, what have you? Absolutely not. So that will be a savings where I don't have to hire so many school aides. I work with my partners in the community, with agencies, and just simple things. I would say to them, can you make sure your people are out taking their breaks every half hour or what have you, and then we see the adults in the community. We've seen that work. I've seen it work in my campus when I ask my teachers, can you just stand at your door say goodbye to your students or welcome them in. When the students see look down the entire hallway and see teachers at their doors, there's going to be no running, fighting, skipping. And it's the exact same thing that I would like to happen in our schools. And so I want to have that conversation. I'm excited actually to have that conversation now to take it even further. So, but like I said, it all depends on what the data will show.
So with that being said, is it part of your long-term vision then to keep these schools open and have some type of like you said, configuration of a government agency or a nonprofit or something occupying parts of the campus that aren't necessarily being utilized by the...
Yes, as Senator, I would love to do that. But you see, remember when we came to you to allow us then now to lease out our decommissioned schools, you kind of made it a little bit harder for us. You allowed us, yes, but then you set, percentage requirement. You set a requirement of a certified appraiser that I would have to pay when maybe I can go to Rev and Tax, because I understand that they did hire a certified appraiser to do all property values, but it's not going to go out in effect until next year. So I don't have access to that. So it's kind of hard for me to make a decision. Yes, I can put it out for bid, but then what am I going to base it on? So, I would love to work with you on that to please make it so much easier for us so we can do that. But I don't want it just for a full facility. I like to be able to do that for classrooms. I like to do it for wings, because I'm being asked right now for actually a wing. Several people have come to me about leasing out like a wing in one of our schools, and I would love to do that. And these are smaller divisions or agencies in the department that, yes, I mean, we're renting out there. Why not rent from us? I mean, I'm not in the business, of course, to make money, but I definitely can use that for our facilities.
And I appreciate that. I know you're not in the business to make money, but when the legislature is trying to cut corners and you talk about prioritizing finances ahead of like academic outcomes, we want to give you the flexibility, but in our defense, what we don't want to see is leasing out facilities for $2 a year. Something not meaningful that's not going to generate the revenue.
No, you're right.
Thank you. Board Chair, can you please answer the same question that I asked Superintendent Wampat, and this is relative to the decision. And, talking to some of the Southern stakeholders, the sentiment was, oh, Lana, because it's election year, of course, they're going to table this. Everybody's happy. The board's running for re-election. We got board members running for, higher office. So everyone's going to be happy. But what happens when 2028 rolls around? Are we going to be right back in this same situation where you're going to have the Southern schools, fighting for their lives?
Thank you, Senator, for asking that. This is my prediction that any person sitting on the board, not just those of us who are there at this time, but future members, are going to come to the same conclusion that they do not want to close our schools. And we're hopefully going to have the data and the options laid before us that will make it very clear that we don't have to close the schools, but we can develop the joint use. Now, I do have one suggestion for the honorable senators to consider. You have the power to mandate government agencies to use public facilities. You can consider a bill, Senator Borja, good senators here today, that would mandate government agencies to utilize available space at schools, as long as those agencies are sort of compatible with the school environment, and have them save money paying private landlords and maybe pay something to the school system. You could do that, and that would really be helpful as an option for the Guam Department of Education. There are certain facilities where government agencies would, I think, fit right in on a school campus. One would be public health. Some of their units, instead of being spread out all over the island in rental property, could be compatible with being at a school facility. I can think of Department of Labor. Instead of renting space from a private landlord, which they're doing now, could be compatible with joining us, because the Department of Labor does some training at their facilities that could be done at the schools. You can save money, plus you can help DOE by being able to charge these agencies a reasonable fee, fair fee, to be on a school campus. So you have control over certain things that we have no control over. I'm also thinking in the future, and I've always wanted to see this, to be honest with you, I'd like our higher educational institutions to use our school facilities as well, to bring their programs to the village. One in particular I feel very strongly about is our GED program. I'd like to see every person on Guam finish high school so that they can become more competitive in the job market. Sometimes it's difficult for them to go up to the GEC campus or the GCC campus because they don't have transportation. But I would like to see our young people and our older people who are not in the job arena today, but who can work, finish their GED and get skills development right in their village, training programs right in their village, so that they can fill vacancies that are needed in our community today. So that's an option. The university also has programs, I think, that would be very popular in the communities, in the villages, if they could just be offered on site at a school near where people live. And our athletic organizations, our nonprofit groups would be perfect to be housed at available school space where they can work out in those areas and have their programs available right at the school site. I'd like to see cottage industries have space at the schools. People in the villages that make things that our tourists want, that our visitors want, that our people want. That would be compatible with a school environment. So there's a lot of options, but this one idea about government agency, we're spending tremendous amounts of money on rentals. And I'm not here to hurt landlords, but we need to use our public facilities also. And the school campuses are ideal. So please consider a bill that would authorize DOE to negotiate with government agencies to relocate to the schools and spend their money to help our school system rather than have to pay large amounts in rent on the outside. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair. Superintendent Wampat, I wrote you
concept, right? I've been hearing more and more
I like the
about that
idea,
concept.
but the problem is they're talking about using part of the school with a current school, right? If for like some wings that they're not using.
Right.
The only thing that comes to mind for me, safety, you know, I mean, you know, and then of course they're actually
Safety because of liability, like an adult hurting.
yeah, I mean, we just don't know, right? I mean, they can say that they're there, let's say, for running backs, you know, but they want to see a kid that they were not allowed to see via court order, right, or whatever. But if it's a school that is fully vacant, like let's say LBJ, and you know, over there,
Yeah, it is going to take some thinking about. I definitely, you know, obviously my kids are out of school now. My youngest just graduated high school. But, yeah, I mean, we're very protective of our children, and rightfully so. But, I mean, I don't I'm willing to even have the conversation about having school buses being used as public transportation. Because when you say that Guam has a terrible public transportation system, I would argue that we actually have an excellent public transit system, but it's only for school children.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I mean, maybe excellent. We have a standard public transportation system, but it's only for school children. I don't know. It's been a while since my kids rode the bus, but I remember as a kid, yes, there are times when the bus is late. Another bus comes, gets me to school.
Yeah.
What happens when the school bus they stop? They park them. We can be utilizing them in between. We can find, just like other small countries, find routes that work for school children and people that got to go to work.
Yeah.
People got to, I mean, it's countries of millions of people, Japan, Korea, school children are riding public transportation to go to school. However, here we are very protective, and again, rightfully so. I don't know if we would be willing to do that, right? But that's a conversation worth having, because that's the conversation that they're having now in the school itself. Adults co-mingling with students at the school at certain wings. And you heard Dr. Judy Wampat say that, do you think these kids would be fighting each other in the hallways if they saw adults? She says no.
No, I mean, there are pros and cons to it, and again, the legislature really has to go through this whole thing, and I mean, Senator Barnett said, hey, it's election year, everybody's happy and everything, and everybody right now is going to try to be be in their best behavior and be on the side of the voters. And if the voters say they don't want schools closed, then fine. All right, cool, no problem. But it's incumbent upon the senators to make it easy for GDOE. Because one, we already know if GDOE came down there to the legislature and said, I need $300 million, they're not going to get it. They'll probably get close to it, like probably $250 million, right? And so, of course, we heard Dr. Wampat say, we're not in the business to make money, but, it would help if we had some more money. And then you had Dr. Judy Guthert say, hey, look, you guys can make it easy by mandating, all these agencies, to rent first from us, give us the first right of refusal. But we already know that after this military buildup, money is not going to be coming in like that. And we already know that there's a dip in our tourism industry. So there's going to be some austerity measures. And we might as well start making, we might as well start saving our money. And how can we do that? By utilizing the schools that are fully vacant. Because I can see...
There's only 2 that are fully vacant.
Well, can you imagine if you put public health right into money where LBJ is at?
Yeah, that's too small.
Well, but think about it.
LBJ is too small for public health.
Well, but we do have the southern and we have the northern. But that would pretty much, if you can centralize...
a public health clinic.
A public health clinic.
Why? When we had a central
clinic
in Manila.
I know. That's, stupid as a stupid does.
Right?
But, again, and it's centralized, right? And so, again, it's one way it's a money-saving mechanism.
Sure, but I think that with the decreasing amount of the student population, Southern High, there's so many vacant wings. I don't see a problem with, like, Department of Agriculture moving there.
Yeah.
That, to me, would be like an ideal agency that can utilize that area.
Oh, I've seen it time and time again where a lot of these agencies, oh, no, it's not conducive to what we do, and, we don't have the right square footage for, they're going to hear every song and dance, but this is where the legislature got to put up or shut up. Okay, you want schools closed? Not closed? Fine. You want to cut GDOE's budget? Fine. All right. Start saving the money.
Put a nursery over at Southern High? I totally could see that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But then, I mean, it was Judy Brothers that said something that is almost comparable to a learning
Department of
environment.
Agriculture. I mean, they're doing a lot of scientific studies over at biosecurity, the biosecurity office.
Yeah.
They look like classrooms to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many
And
reasons.
could you imagine having like Chris Rosario in your in your campus every now and then, the big guy,
Yeah.
right? And you didn't even have to wait for career day. Teachers could just knock on his door and be like, "Hey, can you go talk to my students again about biosecurity, and environmental protection?" And then the same thing goes, "Hey, the cocoa bird, can we bring it into the classroom?"
Trust me, you're going to hear every song and dance. This was a school, and so it's not office conducive. And
we used to. I remember as a kid, we had Future Farmers of America. I'm like, here's an opportunity to bring the entire Department of Agriculture into a southern high school and start another Future Farmers of America, right?
Yeah. And then you probably get, it's too hot in here. Really? Our kids went through that for so many years.
Well, they built it where it's too hot. I mean, they're like aircon, and now the aircon's broken. You don't even have money to keep the Freon running.
It should be good. Okay, just at the 4 o'clock hour, just to remind everybody that we will be having candidate forum, our Beyond the Ballot segment. And she actually called Lillian Guerrero, so she's going to be here. Okay. And, of course, Joe Ariola. So they'll be in with us around the 4 o'clock hour, and they're kicking it off. They're pretty excited.
Nice. All right. So we'll take the break?
Yep, let's take the break, and then we'll come back with our first look at traffic right after this.
Our voices, our conversation. Just like the all-new Subway Wraps. Your favorite Suba. Now wrapped in a tender, rich tortilla that's perfect for any flavor craving. So look what? It's your frozen goals for eat going. Subway Wraps will mean your dish easier than ever with all flavors and creative ingredients. Sink your teeth into the seasoned garlic steak wrap, juicy steak, cheddar cheese sauce, crispy veggies, and roasted bones all wrapped up. Subway Wrap. Light, delicious, and satisfying without waiting you down. Subway. Eat fresh. Feel good.
Law is building the future, and the right conversations start here. SCE welcomes the Pauly to the 2026 Industry Forum, happening July 28th through 30 at the Tucson Resort. Join military, government, and industry leaders as we come together to discuss one's future in infrastructure, resilience, and future network. This premier event will see Guam's next generation of infrastructure. Registration is open. Visit guamindustryforum.com for 2026 SCE Industry Forum, delivering Indo-Pacific readiness.
3:37 in the afternoon, and right now, it's windy out there. Don't worry, because we're here to help you move forward on your daily commute. Along with John Madison, we have Mr. Pauly. All right, let's help you move forward on this Friday. Real quick from the On Transportation Program, Western. There are a number of paving projects that are taking place, specifically Route 10 from throughout this weekend. Contractor crews will be working at various locations within the intersection throughout the week. Any of the main closures and both directors are expected during work hours. So they should be finishing up over by Fort and Flores and Route 10 intersection for striping work. Again, they should be finishing up around 4 p.m. They are also doing loop center installations at Route 15 and Route 10. They should also be finishing up work over by Route 32 and Route 10. At that intersection, they're doing some striping work. And then also on at the Route 15, Route 10 intersection, that's the back road. They're doing loop sensor installation there. There's going to be any work scheduled for Saturday or Sunday. However,
they will use those dates if they need to catch up on some work. They might if it's raining, right? So they might even be ending early because of the rain. So just be aware that they could be using those 2 days. There still is no work scheduled, but you got to use those weekends to catch up on work, right? And then between Route 27 and Long Jacinto Road, that's the holiday market, they're doing some pavement marking over there, installing pavement marking. And again, there's going to be anything scheduled for Saturday and Sunday there as well, but they could if they need to catch up on some work. That's about it. I know they're going to start to begin work on Route 17 all the way through September 21st. Multiple contractor crews will be working in various locations within the project duration. Intermittent lane closures in both directions are expected during work hours. That's Cross Island Road. Yeah. So they're going to be doing a lot of work on Cross Island between now and September 21st. All right. That's your update here on around 3:40 in the afternoon on a Friday. Helping you move forward is Guam Auto Spot. Call them up 470 View the very on the website at guamautostop.com.
Andy Gas, mobile gas to comfort. Now for July 31st, mobile cloud app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with special mobile fill-up of $40 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy Subway. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy very long. Now to matter yet, pick up a mobile cloud card at any mobile location. Register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the center. See store for details.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. He grew up in Congress and never attended high school or college, but Abraham Lincoln became one of our greatest soldiers, keeping our nation whole after the Civil War. After 11 Southern states tried to secede from the Union, and 7 years ago, our founders brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived and liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He persuaded Congress to pass the amendment that abolished slavery. He delivered one of the most important speeches in the history of our nation, the Gettysburg Address, honoring our fallen soldiers and advocating for equality in our democratic government.
We here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish concealed.
The road to our will be long and running this month. We sit down with Republican candidates speaking Frank Gass and Dr. Mayor O'Connell and jack the full conversation in place on May 7th on the Wave 105 YouTube. Stay informed and hear the vision of the Guam speakers. Wave 105 is a closest Guam radio station.
Please warn that radio, the traffic report. This is Wave 105.1 FM, a boosted media radio station.
This is Women 105. You got locked on to the BrightSide with Mr. Pauly Suba. You got Batman. Yeah.
It's been 192-105. Just a few minutes, we should be getting Ernie Guerrero in. Yeah, and Mr. Guerrero. Nice. All right. So, real quick on that oversight hearing that took place again. We can say this maybe in the 5 o'clock or even on Monday. No rush.
Okay.
Because there's a lot that happened at the bill that would give the governor the authority to hire the superintendent. It's Senator Vince Borja's bill.
Okay.
So I really want to unpack that, and so we don't have 15 minutes. Is not enough.
Why does he have to write a bill? I mean, it just go revert back to. I mean, that's basically what was going on before the board was created. The governor chose the superintendent at the time. It was director of GDOE. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe because the board is going to still be there. I don't know, but isn't I mean, so if that's the case, does that eliminates the board? Because who does the board answer to, right? Or who does the superintendent answer to?
I guess we can touch on that already.
Yeah, the governor or the board? Because you're just going to have to demolish the board pretty much if that's the case. Because I don't think if Governor Pauly Suba hired Ryan Nicholas to be the superintendent, and I have to deal with the board, and I have two bosses, you already know it's going to be it's a recipe for disaster. Yeah.
Well, so I really do want to play some clips from that, but like I said, we don't.
Yeah, no, we can say that because it's a useful one,
right? It really is. Yeah. And so, let me see here, because Senator Vince Borja, he broke it down as to. Actually, you can just play it now, because just in that part, so you can see. Right. You'll hear it now. So just play that one audio clip.
Okay, just let me give
no worries. So the other one then, since what I really wanted to talk about before we got to that was FDLG, because that's what Senator Joe San Augustine brought up. And that's the only school that they were confirming that could end up opening up late. And so there's still the possibility that they will open up on time. However, there are a number of projects that still need to happen, and that's the reason why. Like the fire suppression system, that's going to take a while. So until we get an update, I mean, they're not scheduled to start school on time. FDLG is not scheduled to start on time.
Okay, what is the timeline on this one? Who is responsible? Is that the one?
Why the bill exists.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of early on in the beginning, but let me see here if I can pull up what Senator Joe San Augustine had said.
Okay.
You're there already?
Yeah, I'm set already.
Okay, so now I lost it already. By the time you find that, I'll find mine, so you can go ahead. Again, this is why Senator Vince Borja has introduced this bill again to give the responsibility back to the governor in finding the superintendent.
Okay, here we go.
Come from one meeting, one complaint, or one political moment. This bill came from the community. Over the past year, through town halls, oversight hearings, roundtables, school visits, community meetings across Guam, we have heard the same concerns again and again. Parents are frustrated by the lack of answers, teachers feel unheard, unsupported, and in some cases, afraid to speak openly. School administrators are trying to keep campuses running while dealing with policies that do not always match the reality on the ground. And students are asking for what every child deserves: a safe classroom, a qualified teacher, working facilities, and a school system that puts them first. What we heard was not one isolated concern. It was a pattern. People are asking for accountability. They're asking for better communication. They're asking for who is responsible when things go wrong. And they're asking whether the Guam Education Board, as currently structured, is working the way it should. This is what Bill 286 is about. For the last few years, we've seen the administration say it has no power over education. At the same time, we've had a board that, for the most part, allowed management to figure it out on its own. That structure has left too much room for confusion, finger pointing, and delay. Bill 286 we're hoping changes that. The bill moves away from the current hybrid model and creates an appointed Guam Education Board. And under this proposal, the governor has a role, the legislature has a role, and students have a role. Public education is too important to be governed without clear responsibility. When schools are struggling, when facilities are failing, when audits are delayed, when teachers and parents are not being heard, and when students are affected, the people of Guam deserve to know who is responsible. An appointed structure creates a clearer line of accountability. If a board member is appointed, then the appointing authority is responsible for that appointment. If that member is not following the law, not doing the work, or not serving students, there's a clearer process to address that. This is not about taking the people out of the process. It's about making sure the people know who is responsible. Bill 286 also gives the board the structure needed to bring whole of government approach to education. GDOE cannot solve every problem alone. Facilities, procurement, finance, public safety, public health, workforce development, and student services all require coordination across government. This bill holds political leaders accountable for education, not just in words, but in structure. Students are not just affected by the school system, they're a part of it. We should not only ask adults to speak about what students experience, we should give students a voice to someone who has recently lived it. Bill 286 includes a student member who recently graduated from a Guam Public High School, and that matters. The voice that belongs this is a voice that needs to be at the table. Recently, I completed a practicum class focused on education, governance, and board reform. Through that work, I studied different models across the United States, including how appointments, accountability, public participation, and student voice can be structured. That work and that research reinforced what had already been heard from the community. If we want real reform, we have to look at the structure. We cannot keep asking the same system to produce different results without examining who makes decisions, how those decisions are made, and who is responsible for when outcomes do not improve. We also have to address the management and curriculum audit required under Public Law 37-44. The law required GDOE to initiate its first management and curriculum audit since 2009. This was supposed to be a serious review of governance, finance, human resources, facilities, technology, school safety, operations, and instruction. The FY 2024 audit released by the Office of Public Accountability identified low trust and fractured relationships between the Guam Education Board, GDOE leadership, and GDOE staff. That should concern all of us. A school system cannot work when the people governing it do not have trust for the people running it. It cannot improve when the relationship between the board, the superintendent, leadership, and staff is broken. And it cannot deliver better outcomes for students when governance itself becomes part of the problem. The audit called for stronger professional development, measurable performance metrics, and clearer boundaries between the board and the superintendent. Those are important recommendations. But the larger issue is this: the audit was completed, its findings were discussed, and the legislature and the people of Guam still have not received what the law required. Public Law 37-44 was not passed so another report could sit on a shelf. It was not passed so findings could be discussed behind closed doors, selectively referenced in public. It was passed because this community needed transparency. It was passed because our education system needed an honest assessment. And it was passed because accountability means more than completing an audit. It means releasing it, acting on it, and implementing corrective action. On May 27, 2026, I wrote to the chairwoman to formally express concern and seek immediate clarification regarding the board's failure to comply with Public Law 37-44. At the February 4, 2026 oversight hearing, the board indicated there were issues we wanted to clarify before the draft audit could be released publicly. Clarification may be appropriate in some cases, but clarification cannot become an excuse for a delay. As of June 24, 2026, 141 days has passed since that oversight hearing. 141 days since the audit was publicly acknowledged. 141 days since findings and concerns from the audit were openly discussed. And 141 days and the legislature has still not received the report by law. Bill 286 is part of a response to a governance structure that has not acted with the urgency, transparency, or accountability this moment requires. The Office of Public Accountability has raised serious and repeated concerns within GDOE. We have seen high-risk status, repeat audit findings, internal control weaknesses, and missed opportunities to use federal resources for critical services. We have also heard directly from the community about retaliation, poor communication, compliance issues, unclear responsibility, and lack of trust. These are not separate issues. When an audit identifies low trust, fractured relationships, unclear boundaries, and weak accountability, and when that same audit still has not been properly transmitted and made available to the people, this legislature has a responsibility to examine the structure of the board itself. This is why Bill 286 moves away from the hybrid model and creates an appointed Guam Education Board. It gives the government a role, the legislature a role, and it gives the Guam recent public high school graduate a seat at the table. Public education requires leadership. It also requires oversight. This bill is not about attacking anybody. It's about strengthening institutions, making sure no board, agency, or office is above accountability, and it's about creating a governance structure that is transparent, responsive, lawful, and centered on students. The people of Guam have spoken through town halls, hearing school visits, conversations, and testimony. They have asked for accountability. They have asked for clarity, and they have asked for a structure that works. The management audit has given us a warning. The board's delay has given us another. The community has given us its testimony. Now the question is whether or not we're willing to act. This is an opportunity to move from frustration to reform, an opportunity to rebuild trust, and an opportunity to create a board structure that is more accountable, more responsive, and more connected to the people it serves. We look forward to hearing from everybody today and to receiving the continued input from our community. Sijuas Ma'asi, and thank you for being here today.
Removes the 6 elected board seats, and so would create a new appointed board structure, 4 members appointed by the governor with legislative confirmation. 2 members appointed by the Speaker of the Legislature with no confirmation required. 1 youth representative aged 18 to 25 who graduated from GDOE Public High School selected by the board. And then it would also add non-voting members, chair of the Legislature's Education Committee or designee, president of the Mayor's Council or designee, president of the Guam Federation of Teachers or designee, and then the chairperson of the Island-wide Board of Governing Students or designee. And so from 5 members to 4 when it comes to lowering the quorum and voting requirement. And so it's more focused on the Guam Education Board itself. So that's what the bill aims to do. And so when you listen to the public hearing, which I want to break it down, and so we may or may not get to it, maybe in the 5 o'clock hour, is that even Senator Chris Barnett says nobody asked for this bill. And Senator Vince Borja confirms and says, yeah, nobody did ask, but I don't think anybody would be wanting to do it out in the open on the record because they would be worried about retaliation. And so there was Mr. Kenneth.
I believe it's more proactive. Why wait? You already know the potential, right? And it's just because nobody asked. For me, it's like, well, that's the problem with the legislature. It's always been very reactionary. If there's something out in public or something went, hit the news, we got to write a bill.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the Organic Act said the governor shall have oversight over education.
Education, public safety,
with state. So basically, they just said change governor to government, right?
I believe.
And then by doing that, then that's how they were able to remove the governor's authority.
It's interesting because it has to be an act of Congress. So I would like to actually ask.
It was Congress because it was Dr. Robert Underwood.
That's who I would like to ask. What was the changes within the Organic Act? So
I think it was just switching the name from governor to government because then the government is still responsible for, and that's why again Dr. Judy Wampat when she goes, I still say that the governor should have oversight over DDOE. And she says, it was my own Republican colleague, I forgot who she said, but it was a Republican colleague that said, the buck stops at the governor. Always. When it comes to, and specifically when it comes to education.
Always. I mean, the whole, actually, the reason why this whole thing with GDOE and the board, of the creation of the board, and, you know, many years ago, I was talking to a couple people, and, you know, the whole thing was the military, mind you, they get Section 30 funds, they don't want to get Section 30 funds, right? And it's for schools, for roads, you know, for pretty much everything.
Right.
And so the military was saying, hey, look, you know, our kids are going to your schools, the scores are down, and we need improvements, and we're not going to do anything. We're going to stop, you know, if you guys don't create a board, we're going to do our own schools. And so, of course, naturally, everybody went up in arms and started panicking because they're like, oh, we're going to lose a lot of funding. So they created the board. And I believe it was North Forbes. I want to say it was one of his initiatives. Yeah.
Well, we'll leave this. We'll put this on the shelf and we'll pick it up later.
Yeah.
Because it is now 4 o'clock, and our friends who are running for the 39th farm legislature are here.
Awesome.
So we'll take the break. You know, it looks like we're going to end up having like 4 streams today.
Okay.
So we'll stop this one.
Yeah.
Because what I want to do is I wanted to make it easier for people to go back.
Yes.
So we'll stop this one, and we will start up another live stream on our YouTube. This is Wave 105, KGUM FM in Janet, Oklahoma.
He moved up in Thomas and was searching for